Hey guys, for those of you who love these long videos, boy, do I have one in store for you then. So get your popcorn, get comfortable, don't forget to like and subscribe, and get ready for this big transformation. You guys can follow me over on Instagram at Christy at the Cottage.
On today's episode of The Sleepy Hairstylist, things to ponder before waking up. When the alarm goes off to get up early to go to the beauty supply, do we decide that 30 volume is going to work just as good as 20 volume? Yes. We can water 30 volume down to create 20 volume. Check. Do we extend the alarm a little bit by 6 minutes just to get a few more minutes of sleep? Yes. Do we turn on the curling iron to style the hair, but realize we took too long to get out of bed and now I have to turn it off? Yes. Do we place an order through Starbucks even though we're probably running a minute or two late for a new client? Yes. We definitely still get Starbucks because we're hairstylists, and what the hell are we gonna do without Starbucks in the morning? Do we regret laying awake in bed until 2 a.m. watching stupid TikTok challenges and then having to wake up to an alarm at 6 a.m. for your boyfriend to go to work? Yes, we regret that too. Yes, bad decisions, all of them. Next time I need to go to bed at 10. And I'm saying that knowing it won't happen. So today is not a vlog, just some thoughts that I'm having. Wishing that I had today off, wishing that I have to be to work in 10 minutes. And I'm probably 15 minutes out and I still haven't stopped to get my Starbucks. And I'm still gonna stop to go get it. So there's only so much that I can do in life, and today being on time is not one of them. So I just got my Starbucks, and the only reason why my hair is down is because I had to pretend that I styled it today, because I don't want to go in there with it looking all crazy like it was a few minutes ago. I just wanted to go on a little hairstylist rant. One of my biggest pet peeves, and tell me if anybody agrees with this or if this drives anybody else crazy. Look, I know that we should be early and that we should be, there a few minutes early, whatever, but today it's not going to happen, and it's probably just not going to happen a lot of other times too, okay? So, or even when you're already at work and say your client's appointment is at like 2 o'clock, but they show up at like 1:30 or 1:45, and you're just now starting to like blow dry your client, and they're like so early and then like, so they've been waiting there for like 20 minutes, but they really haven't been waiting for 20 minutes. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you're just 20 minutes early. That's your fault. And so the thing that I hate is when clients show up early and then you are maybe like a minute or 2 minutes past time, and they start looking at you like, are you going to hurry up and be done with, and like take me? And it drives me crazy because it's like, I'm only a minute past due, so you're looking at me like I'm 15, 20 minutes late, but really I'm just a minute late. You've just been sitting there for so long that you feel like you've been waiting forever and you haven't been. That just drives me crazy. I feel, don't show up more than like 5 to 10 minutes early, especially if you're my first client of the day, because I can tell you right now, I will not be 15 or 10 minutes early. I might be 3 to 5 minutes early. I might be 1 minute early. So then, like, I'm going to be on time today. I really thought I was going to be late. I'm not going to be late. I'm going to be on time. I might be a few minutes early. Thank the Lord. But when your client's the first one and you like walk right up at 10 o'clock. That's when I start. And they've been waiting outside for like 5 minutes and they start messaging you on Instagram or texting you like, I'm here, no one's here yet. Is the salon open? I'm like, oh, well, yeah, it's 10 o'clock right now. Like, we're not here 30 minutes early for the sake of being that early. Like, if your appointment's at 10, be here at 10. Don't be here at 9:30. Your appointment is not at 9:30. Your appointment is at 10. Your appointment is not at 9:50. Your appointment is at 10. I will be there on time, but I will not be there extremely early. Be there at 10. Forgot a bowl. Okay. So the client that I'm doing today, this is a new client I've never done before. She has very long hair, like down beyond her butt practically. And it's also very thick. And so we were just talking about like price quote and that kind of thing. And so she already paid like $100 deposit. So that's going to help knock the price down a little bit when everything's said and done. But I just asked her, like, because your hair is so long and I don't really know how long the service is going to take or how much bleach we have to use or anything, do you have a price point that you want to stay within? Because normally services that we're going to be doing is like, you know, $250 to $300, but because her hair is so long and so thick and there's so much bleaching to do, that I told her I really don't know like what we're going to top out at. And I told her usually appointments like this, when you know, it takes like 5 to 8 hours or whatever, the service can end up costing like $500 to $800 just at an hourly rate. And so I told her I'd rather charge an hourly rate just because it's easier to do it that way versus having like not knowing how much bleach I'm going to have to use and how many, you know, treatments and Olaplex and all of that stuff. So, because I told her like there's been times where I've used like, you know, 10 extra bowls of bleach on somebody, and that was like almost $150 extra charge on the service just for the extra bleach. So that's why I'm like, I don't really know what the overall cost is going to be just because of that factor of your hair being so long and how much bleach is going to have to be used. So I'd rather just go like charge hourly for the service. And so she's still kind of like undecided on what she wants to do. I told her that we can start her service like in the front and start lightening up like all of this stuff up here. And then, because underneath her hair is very, it's like it hasn't been bleached, which is, it doesn't show because her hair is so long. The only way that you can see that it's dark is when she pulls her hair up. And I know when blondes, when people that have dark hair want to be blonde and they like have their hair down, and if you don't color the underneath, then they tend to feel very dark because all this dark hair from underneath falls forward and it's not bleached. So I told her that we can go through and do some highlights just kind of like along the hairline in the back. That way it kind of brightens it up. And then also when she pulls her hair up, she's going to have that brightness too in her ponytail. So I told her we can just do that if you want to brighten up underneath, if you don't want to do the whole underneath part. And she's still not really sure what she wants to do. So I told her, why don't we just focus first like in this front area around here, the whole top section, and making sure we get this nice and light. And then you know, after we do the hairline foils down here and we can see how far we are into the service, if it's like 4 hours of, you know, just applying the bleach and she's still sitting there with bleach on her head still, if she decides she doesn't want to do the underneath, then she doesn't have to. So we're gonna mix my lightener, and because I'm a loser and didn't go to the beauty supply store, we're just gonna mix my Schwarzkopf Blonde Me with 30 volume, and we're gonna water it down because I'm a loser. So, and Olaplex. And because her hair is already kind of like, I definitely don't want to run 30 volume through the ends of her hair because her hair is already previously lightened, even though it's kind of like a level 8 right now. I only really want to use like 10 volume or less on her ends.
So I'm gonna do 2 different bowls of bleach, and one of them is gonna be extremely watered down and the other one is gonna be just kind of watered down. So, okay. All right, and we have finally made it to the hair part of the video. Thank you so much for tagging along. So here's my client's before. You can see that her hair has grown out quite a bit and also a pretty heavy line of demarcation. That's a pretty solid line there. It's not really blending very much. So we are trying to get her really blonde, and she kind of decided that she wants to try to blend it into her roots as much as possible. That way she can not have to worry about feeling like she needs to come in, you know, in like 2 months or a month or whatever and feel like she has horrible grow out. So the goal is to take it all the way up to her roots, but to blend it. So that's what we're going to try and accomplish today. And to start with her foil, we are going to go around her hairline because she did say that she does like having it nice and bright around the face. So we're going to start here and work our way around the hairline. So I'm going to start with about 3 to 4 foils going back off of her hairline, and this is going to help blend her hair so that when she pulls her hair back, she has some really nice brightness. She said that last time she got her hair done, it only took like an hour and a half to 2 hours. So she was really skeptical that what kind of service did she really get. And I could see when I pulled her hair back that they did her foils on her hairline up the side of her head more horizontal versus vertical, and that creates more like streaks in the hair. And also, it doesn't really give that much coverage when somebody pulls their hair back in a ponytail. And usually when people have their hair this long, they do tend to throw it back quite a bit. In my experience, they do tend to pull their hair back just to get it out of the way. And so they want to see a lot of brightness right on their hairline when they pull their hair back in a ponytail. They don't want to feel like it's really dark. And if you do foils more horizontally up the side of the head, then they're going to see a lot of that natural dark, versus if you foil the hair vertically like I'm doing, then it's going to give them a lot of nice blended brightness. So they feel nice and bright around the hairline, around the face. When they pull their hair back, they're going to see a lot of blonde versus heavy streaks, and then also a lot of that natural dark color. And then this will also help the hair grow out really nicely and have more of like a natural sun-kissed look. So that's why I like foiling more vertically around the hairline versus horizontally. And all of my clients love having their hairline foils this way because it just blends so much, and they feel like they can go a long time in between services without feeling like they need to get it touched up again. I want to point out, I don't think I've done it yet in the service, but if you see me flipping between brushes, it's because one brush is the stronger volume and then the other brush is for the weaker volume. That way, if I have to run any lightener through the ends, because I talk about that, don't run heavy bleach through the ends and cause breakage, and then your clients are going to hate you. So I'm going to run bleach through the ends, but I want to make sure that it's not going to be damaging. So it's going to be extremely weak bleach. And then when it comes to the point that I have to refill my bowl of bleach, I'm going to take the old bleach and mix it in with the weak bleach and mix that up so then it's even weaker bleach. So I just want to make sure that we brighten up through that brassiness of her hair, but I want to make sure that I do it in a way where it's not going to damage her hair. So always use 2 different bleaches if you need to, and always charge for it. This costs money, you guys. So if you see 2 different brushes, that's why. So I've had people ask me before, why do I do my hairline foils first? Why don't I wait until the very end of the service? Because the hairline foils are a little bit more fine, they process faster, whatever. And the reason is because I'm kind of a perfectionist and I like knowing exactly that my hairline foils are going to be exactly how I want them. If I go through and do the rest of the foil and then leave the hairline for last, then that leaves me like a very specific amount of hair. And until you actually get in and foil around the hairline, sometimes you don't know what angle you're going to have to foil the hairline at. And some people, you have to do more of like a diagonal. Other people are more straight on. And so if I already like have that hair section out and then I have those foils behind that are kind of in the way and kind of preventing me from being able to foil the hairline how I want to, then that is just a really big problem for me. And it's probably something that like clients wouldn't notice, but the fact that I wouldn't be able to get in there and really be meticulous with the hairline like I would want to be is enough to drive me insane. So that's why I like to go through and start the hairline foils first and just be safe about it. Like I check my work quite a bit through the service, so that way if I have to pull the foils out ahead of time, I will. I'm not going to let it sit there for like 4 hours and melt off or anything. So just be smart about the way that you're going through your service. If you want to start with the hairline foils because, you know, you got to pay attention to the detail work and make sure you're putting the foils in there as you want them. And then just make sure that you're checking them and they're not like over processing or anything like that, or pull them out and wipe the bleach off if you need to. So that's just why I like to do my hairline foils first. And then, yeah, so I don't like saving that for last. I just don't like it. So everybody has their preference and that's mine. So we're going to go in and we're going to do her money piece, and she wants it nice and bold but kind of like blended at the same time, and she wants it all the way up to her hairline. So we're going to just do this really fine weave directly on her hairline because we went all the way up to her hairline on the sides of her head. So I'm going to make sure that this very first foil directly on her forehead is going to be all the way up also. And then after this first 1 or 2 foils, that is just going to be a very fine, like honestly, it's a very fine baby light. I'm going to go through and do some back combed weaves, and that's going to give it more of a blended look, but she's just going to have a really teeny bit of fine brightness all the way up to her forehead, and that's going to blend with the rest of her hair. So that way when she pulls her hair back, she has like a nice connected hairline all the way around. I don't want to like miss any hair like on the sides of her forehead or whatever, or back comb it from the very first foil, and then when she pulls her hair back, she has like these nice bright pieces all the way like up to her hairline, and then all of a sudden like at the top of her forehead it's kind of more rooty. I don't think that would look good. So that's why we're just going to do these really fine foils right here, and then after this we're going to start blending them in so that way it kind of grows out a little bit softer. So here I'm just trying to decide how to go about finishing off her money piece. So I'm trying to figure out, where does she part her hair? Does she part it down the center? Does she part it mostly on the side? And she said she parts it mostly on the side. So I'm going to go through and do the same sectionings that I was doing before. I'm just going to weave these and back comb them. That way it blends, because I don't want to do it just straight across, kind of like in a triangle section in the center. And then if she parts her hair on the side, then all of that foil, all of that blonde that we just did in that very centerpiece is all going to fall onto one side. So that's why I decided to do these sectionings kind of the same diagonal that I was doing, or V shape anyways, that I was doing with the previous foils. So I'm going to go where she parts her hair for the most part, and I'm going to kind of do a zigzag down her part, and this is going to ensure that wherever her hair falls, she's going to have some highlights fall wherever she parts her hair. You don't want to have the hair parted straight down the center and then take a fine weave directly off of that. And then what if they move their part around and then that blonde like moves all to one side or all to the other side, and then the other side of their hair doesn't have any blonde on it. So that's why I like doing more of a zigzag down their part, because that's going to make sure that I'm grabbing hair from like wherever they're gonna part their hair at, and it's gonna fall evenly on both sides. So that's kind of like one trick that has really helped me that I've figured out. So that's just going to ensure that you have a better blend too. And I'm not really doing too thick of sections, and I'm back combing it. And this is going to help it blend really nicely into the roots. So we're going up pretty close to the roots, but we're back combing it. And then every other section I'm going to do closer to her roots. I'm not going to do a subsection in between because we're trying to lighten up all of her ends also. So every other section I'm going to drop down and just lighten where her hair is already pre-lightened, but leave it kind of rooty. So we're going to go every other foil closer to her roots, and then you'll see this foil, we're going to drop it down a little bit and just go through the ends of her hair and then kind of back and forth. And that's going to make sure that her roots blend really nicely. She has some brightness, but also she's going to have a lot of her natural tone in there. So that way she's not going to have a heavy line of grow out in a few months, and she'll be able to go quite a while without feeling like she needs to come in anytime soon. Now we're going to go back through, grab that really fine section, weave it, back comb it, and then kind of feather it up closer to the roots, but not like, you know, if you foil the hair and you press the bleach all in a solid line. We want to make sure that we blend it up into the roots instead of a harsh line. That's going to make sure, again, that everything blends really nicely and that it feathers up in to her natural color. And that's going to make sure that as her hair grows out, it's going to be really soft and subtle and have an extra nice blend. And that back comb is also going to help it blend really nicely too. So I'm going to let this play and we're going to talk about something really quickly. Well, maybe not quickly. You guys know how I like to go on a ramble. But I don't know if you follow me on Instagram, Christy at the Cottage, but I had posted something almost immediately after this service, and it's part of a conversation that my client and I had during the consultation, and I posted about it, and it kind of like, I don't want to say like it blew up in the sense where like it got posted by major hair pages or anything, but like it blew up in the sense of my interaction on the post than what's normal for my page. So like as of this point, it's had probably like 20,000 impressions, which is huge for me anyways, because I don't have a whole bunch of, I don't have like 100,000 or 50,000 or 10,000 Instagram followers or anything like that. So but it's gotten a lot of like attention, and I kind of wanted to talk about it here in case you guys don't follow me over on Instagram and haven't seen it. But if you have seen it, then this is what the service is from that post. And here it comes right now. I'm just going to insert it into the video and you guys will see what I'm talking about, and then we'll go over it in a minute. Post says, the question isn't, can it be done in one session? It's, are you willing to pay $500 to $600 in one session? And that came from the conversation where we were talking about her hair and what she wants. And she asked me, is it realistic what I want for it to be done in one session? And I just kind of sat there for a minute and I just thought about it. I'm like, yeah, it's possible to be done in one session. And then I was like, honestly, I feel like when a hairstylist says it will take multiple sessions to get a service done, it's not necessarily that your hair cannot get it accomplished in one session. It's more so that either the hairstylist isn't blocking out enough time for it to get done in one session, but also it's more so about, are you willing to spend that much money in one session to achieve the goal that you're looking for? And we kind of talked about that more. I'm like, you have to understand, like, some of these services take, it's like an all day event. And at that point, like, that's going to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And I'm not talking about like $300. I'm talking about $500 to $800. And so I kind of told her, what you're wanting, especially for the length of your hair, normally would be maybe like, $250 to $300 or whatever. But because your hair is so long and how much bleach we have to use and all of this stuff, who knows where we're going to end up at. I don't know how many hours it's going to take, but for me personally, big, huge transformations like these end up costing an hourly price of $100 an hour. And that's just honestly because I'm going to block my whole day out. If somebody wants to come in and get a service like this done, or they know that it's going to be like a very long service, I just tell them up front now, like, I'm going to dedicate my whole day to you. And that's going to be an hourly charge of $100 an hour if this is what you're wanting. And I don't know how long it's going to take. It could be 6 hours. It could be 8 hours. It could be 4 hours. I don't really know, because I don't want to risk potentially booking another client after that and then running out of time or whatever. Like, I'd rather just know that I have the whole day to do what I need to do and know that we're going to finish with what they want, assuming their hair will allow us to do that job. But I want to make sure that I have the time, and they also need to understand that yes, you can have what you want right now, but are you willing to spend that much money? And chances are a lot of clients don't really want to spend that much money in a day. So that's usually why they have to break it into, 2 to 4 services, because they're only willing to spend $200 at a time. For anybody that doesn't have Instagram, I'm going to go through and read that whole caption to you guys. So it says, during the consult, we talked about, can it be done in one session? And we talked about, what does one session mean? I told her it talks about time, it talks about cost, etc. And ultimately she wanted what she wanted and was fine with everything we discussed. I was just thinking that really it's not about can it be done in one session, but are clients really willing to pay for what that time frame of a service means? Just FYI, all-day services generally run at an hourly rate, not just $200 to $300 for quote-unquote highlights. I have finally come to the place where I can't allow myself to spend 4+ hours on a service and feel bad about why I charge so much, or in their eyes so much. I can't feel bad about what the charge is and only charge $250. Here's why. And I'm kind of giving a little breakdown on, think about how many color services we could do in a day and how much that could add up. So if I do 4 colors at $200 in a day, that's $800. If I do 5 colors at $150, that's $750 in a day. If I do 3 colors at $300, that's $900 in a day. So why would any hairstylist literally slave over a color for 6 hours for only $350 to $400? These services are no longer a basic highlight. It's heavy foiling of baby lights, back combing, balayage through the ends, multiple toners, root shadows, treatments, endless bowls of bleach, and 39 to 45 minutes of a comb out and a haircut and a style. So yes, it can generally be done in one day, determining the health of the hair. But as a client, you really need to be prepared to pay for an all-day price. I do not think it's realistic to do a 6+ hour service for only $200. I feel like that point has definitely been on my mind more about, I feel like we always get stuck at this place, and I know I've talked about it before, about feeling like I don't want to charge more than $300, or I don't want to charge more than $250 or whatever, but the client's asking for a service that costs, like, really, if you charge what you're supposed to, maybe like $500 or $400 or whatever, but we always get scared to charge over that like $250 mark. Gasp. And I think we have to stop thinking of that and stop preventing ourselves from making money, because if they don't want to pay the money, like, just say it. Like, just tell them. For that service that you're asking for, it's going to take roughly this many hours. And for that large of a service, I charge hourly. And it could potentially be this much. And that's for anywhere. So we can do this in a few sessions. And over time, it's going to cost about $800. Or would you like to just knock it out at once? And I think that's fair. I don't think it's okay for us any longer to like spend all day on these services and only charge $200. And honestly, it's our fault. Because we are afraid to bring it up. We're afraid to like tell our clients like, okay, it's going to be like $500. Sorry. Like, let me cover my face up while I tell you that. And I was totally that person not even that long ago. I was totally afraid to be like the most awkward person at the checkout. Like, so are you okay with it? I'm sorry, but your service is going to be like $350. Don't hate me. Like, literally that was me. And there was a guy that I work with and I love him so much. He's like my mentor, and he's always told me, stop feeling bad. Stop feeling guilty about what you charge. Like, charge what you charge and just let it be. Like, you're worth it. You do good work. And just because you wouldn't charge that, or just because you wouldn't spend that much money on your hair for you, doesn't mean like somebody else wouldn't. So don't put your limitations on somebody else. And that's so true. Like, how often do we assume that somebody can or can't afford something? You know what I mean? Like, that's not our job to do. If they're coming to you because they want something done, then it's not our job to say they can or cannot afford it. And that has been literally the hardest thing that I've probably had to like overcome in my whole career, is being able to charge what I know that I should be charging. And I know that it's such like a hard thing to get over. And there's actually people in the comments sometimes that will be like, oh, you shouldn't talk about charging. You shouldn't put that in the video. But I think it should be talked about, because I think when it's talked about more, I feel like people get more confident in charging what they're worth. But then also, I think it opens the door for clients that don't know any better to actually hear that this is realistically how long it takes and realistically how much it's going to cost. I was talking to another hairstylist about it on Instagram, and she's in New York, and like she was saying how it should just be universal that hairstylists charge an hourly rate of $100 an hour at least. Like, no matter where you work at, like, it should just be known that as a hairstylist you charge $100 an hour. And I used to not really understand the idea of charging hourly, because I was just thinking, like, why would I want to do that? Like, I wouldn't want my client to think like, oh, I'm taking longer so that way I can charge more or whatever. But the more, like, the busier that I've gotten and the longer these services take, the more I'm just like, this does need to be more of an hourly charge, because it's too hard to know what the service is going to entail. How many different steps are there going to be? Like, instead of charging, and you can tell your client, you can tell, honestly, I could charge a la carte, but if I did it that way and broke it down to every single bowl of bleach, every toner, every root smudge, every ounce, every whatever, like, the charge would probably go up versus just being like, it's just a straight $100 an hour. So, and another thing that she was saying was that how many times does somebody come in and you do a partial foil, but then they ask you, you know, in a partial foil, in and out, like what, an hour and a half or whatever. But then the next time the client comes in and they talk about like, oh, I want to do a partial foil, but like, could you just add some foils on the hairline because it's so dark down there? Or could you add a second color just to add some more dimension and break the color up a little bit? And us as hairstylists don't like saying any, like, we become friends with our clients, so then we kind of get awkward, and we don't want to be the person that's like, it's gonna be an added cost, oh, you know. So then we're kind of like, oh no, sure, yeah, I can totally do that. So then here you are adding maybe potentially an extra 45 minutes onto the service. So instead of just an hour and a half, now you're like over 2 hours, and you're still only making, you know, $125 for a partial foil and a haircut, where now it's more like you're adding all this extra stuff to the service that you weren't doing before, but because we're nice, we don't want to hurt our clients' feelings, and because we think we're friends or whatever, we don't want to charge them for it. We don't want to bring it up, or we don't want to tell them and be offensive that it's going to be an added charge. So she was saying, like, you know, if you end up doing these little extras for your clients, if it's an hourly rate, if it ends up taking you longer, then you don't have to worry about thinking about the cost, because the time frame is going to automatically give you that extra money. And if your clients just automatically know that it's an hourly charge of $100 an hour, and if they know that before they were only there for an hour and a half, and so they were spending $150, but they know it's hourly, so if they're there for 2 hours now, they know that they're paying $200. So that just made a lot of sense when she kind of broke it down like that, because it's true. We do want to be nice to our clients, and we want to make them happy. So we're going to throw in a few extra foils, even though we know we're just really supposed to be doing a partial. So anyways, you guys know that I go on rants, but I just think that's really informational and like eye-opening to think about. Is I don't charge hourly for everything, but like for long services like these, I've switched to hourly just because it's just easier. I don't have to think about it. And I told my client, I'm like, it's impossible to know, especially like there's been a time before where I had to use 12 extra bowls of bleach on a client, and that alone was an extra $150 added onto the service that I had no idea was going to be there. And she just kind of looked at me like, holy cow. So that's just a good example of, I don't know, you have so much hair and I don't know how much bowls of bleach we have to use. Maybe I use 5 bowls of bleach. Maybe I use 500 bowls of bleach. I don't know. Everything costs money. So just having that added, you know, that hourly cost in there is going to make that, like, you're not going to have to question it anymore. So, anyways, so much stuff to talk about, so much stuff to think about. How many of you guys, let me know in the comments, like, how many of you guys, do you guys charge hourly? And if you're a client and not a hairstylist, also leave something in the comments and let me know how you feel about an hourly charge. Do you guys care one way or the other? Like, I am totally curious to see what you guys feel about it. All right, back to the hair. So now that we've gone through on both sides and done our foiling, I'm going to just go through and put some panels in the back. Kind of the same exact thing that we did on the sides, just, you know, making sure we got the back covered too. And I want to say that some people ask me why I always insulate my color, and that's because a lot of people want the look of balayage, or the style that people say is balayage, even though I know balayage is a technique and not a certain look or whatever. But when clients come in and ask for balayage, I know what they're talking about. And the reason why I always insulate is because balayage, I believe, gets like 3 to 5 levels of lift, and it also creates a lot of warmth in the hair. And so if somebody's coming in, they have a picture and they want this like super icy white, nice and bright blonde, then I will not ever do a balayage, because a lot of my clients are blonde and they want that icy white blonde, and balayage just really isn't the answer for that. I feel like, yes, you can get it bright and you can get it nice and blended and all that, but a lot of the balayages that I see have a lot of existing warmth in the hair. And so I feel like insulating with foils really helps it get nice, even lift. And I feel like I'm in more control of the hair and what it's doing, versus kind of like a waiting game. If somebody has darker hair and they want to do more of like a balayage, then it's completely out of my control. I feel like, and this has happened where somebody wants a balayage and they just want to try it out and see how they feel about it because they like the way it looks. And yes, it does look very pretty, but they still have very dark, thick, coarse hair, and they want it to be nice and bright and white blonde. And I've even explained to them that we can do it, but like your hair's gonna be orange. You're going to be stuck brassy because it's open air. Even if we insulate it with like saran wrap or whatever, it's still not going to have, all of that heat, and, it's not going to help it process whatever. And then that's what happens. It goes warm. So, and I have seen people that just knock it out of the park, and they're probably better than me. So whatever. But just like in my experience, I just feel like I get better lift using foils. So that's why I like to use foils. I generally don't ever, and I like that it's nice and clean. I can get in there, check my color, like do what I need to do, move the foils around. With balayage, you kind of like, once you're done with it, you can't move it again really, because or else it's gonna like, touch other hair and then potentially get splotchy or whatever. So for people that like to ask why I like to use foils, this is why. It gets better lift, it gets a brighter, wider lift, and it lifts faster, and it lifts whiter. I can have it more icier and a much cooler, brighter blonde, versus being stuck at kind of like a warm level 9 or something like that. So yes, I hope that answers any questions for those of you that have asked. And I've seen in the comments multiple times about why do I use foils when I do more of a balayage. So that's my answer. And again, she was talking about how she feels really dark when she wears her hair down because her hair wasn't colored underneath. So when her hair falls forward, and this is something that a lot of blondes feel that I've talked about before, is that if they have naturally dark hair, and if they're doing like normally like focusing a lot of the blonde up top, make sure you go through the hairline and add a few foils down there to brighten it up, because when their hair falls down and they pull all their hair forward, all they see is that really dark color underneath that's coming through, and it makes them feel like they're really dark. It makes them feel like all they are is brunette. Or when they pull their hair up in a ponytail and all they have is that really dark, they feel like they don't have any blonde. So make sure when you're doing your blondes to go through the hairline, and even if you don't do a full underneath and do a whole bunch of lightening in the underneath layer, at least go through and do some foils along the hairline, so that way when the hair falls forward, it's nice and bright. When they pull their hair, if it's nice and bright, and then that's going to make sure that your client is nice and happy. So we're going to back comb these foils, that way it blends into the roots and blends really nicely. We're not going to have like any harsh lines or anything, and that's all that we're going to do for the hairline foil down here. Is just pop a few foils in, a few on either side, and then we're going to go straight across the nape and add some of those foils in too and call it good. Here you can see all of the actual foil work that we did do in the top section. So you can see that there's really no hair, no subsections in between. Everything is getting lightened. The only subsection that she has is where we drop down the bleach more through the midshaft and midsection. I always get stuck on that midsection. So because that underneath part still has a lot of warmth in there, we're just going to go through this section right now, and all of that underneath part we're just going to lighten up through the ends to make sure that that gets nice and bright through those ends. So we're just going to finish that part up, even though we're not going to hit the middle section or the underneath section above the nape of her neck. We're not going to do that too much, just those two little foils right out through her hairline in the very back, and then the rest of the hair we're going to lighten through the ends, and then that will be all. Just gonna finish up, and I'm not doing everything. I'm just weaving out any of the hair that's dark, and I'm just gonna get anything that's already pre-lightened, and we're gonna keep trying to lighten that up. But anything that's already like her natural dark color, we're not gonna try to budge that at all. Just whatever is already kind of brassy. And because this is not being, it's insulated, but it doesn't have that natural heat from her head, I just want to blow it a little bit with the dryer to speed it up because all the other stuff has been sitting for so long. So I'm going to heat it up with the blow dryer, just blast it really quickly. And then I'm also going to secure those dropped out foils that are a little bit longer from the very underneath. And I'm just going to secure it closer to her head. That way it kind of gets the heat from her scalp and helps it process a little bit better. And we're going to go through right now and just check these foils, see where we're at. And yes, it is very light. And I'm going to go through and pull these foils out if we need to. I just want to check the integrity of the hair again, see how it's feeling, pull these foils out. And one thing that I don't do is spray the bleach down and wipe it out. You want to make sure that you're actually like pulling the bleach out and wiping it off and trying to get as much of the bleach off as possible and dry the bleach out. That's what's going to prevent it from lifting anymore. So we're doing a pull check right here. Her hair still feels really good, which I was happy about. I mean, it's been sitting there for a long time, so I don't know what I expected, but I didn't expect it to feel as good as it does. And honestly, it's probably because of the Olaplex. So her hair feels really nice. And again, we're just going to try and wipe as much bleach off as we can. I'm going to separate these little sections with some foils because I don't want it sitting on top of her natural hair and then potentially like, you know, just lifting it a little. So I'm going to leave those alone, and I'm just going to come through over onto this side now and make sure that this side feels fine because I know this is kind of where I started and it's been sitting longer than the other side. So we're just going to check this out, see how it pulls, if it feels okay, and everything feels really good. So I'm not going to really pull through much of the rest of it because that very first one feels okay. So generally everything after that one should feel just as fine too. So we're going to secure that with another foil underneath, make sure that it doesn't adjust any of your natural hair. And then we're going to go through this front section where we did her hairline foils, and we just want to brighten this little few sections up because this is right at the front of her hairline where we don't want to leave this feeling brassy. So we're just going to try and lift through this really quickly. And I'm using bleach that we originally mixed at the very start of the service. So where I would normally be worried about this kind of over processing, because this bleach is pretty much dead. It's been sitting for hours at this point. It's really weak. So all we really need to do is just, you know, bust through that warmth really quickly. So any weak bleach is going to do that job. So we're going to take the bleach, run it through the ends where we didn't foil at the very beginning of the service. And we're going to pull it through the ends to help it eliminate that brassiness and to just brighten these pieces up a little bit better. And then we're going to set those aside with the bleach on the ends, but we're not going to put it in the foil because I don't want it to over process. So we're just going to run it through the ends and then let it sit open air. So it will eventually dry out as it's lifting, but I'll know that it will get a nice brightness without causing any damage. So that's all that we're going to do for the rest of the service. And she's just going to finish processing for just a few minutes. All right, now we're at the shampoo bowl, so we're gonna pull these foils out. Look at how long that, I mean, this hair was just so long. So we're gonna pull these foils out really quickly and then go work on doing our toner.
Okay, so my client is just sitting at the shampoo bowl. I didn't purple shampoo or anything like that just because we don't have enough. Our hair's so massive. So what I'm gonna do is tone her right now, and I kind of have to be very careful of what I tone her with because
She wants to be very bright, but because her hair is just, I mean, it's massive. I'm gonna have to do two full bottles of toner to make sure I have enough for an application. Actually, I think I have a lot of Paul Mitchell PA, 10 PA. So I think I'm probably gonna use as much 10A, as much 10 PA, maybe a little bit of 9V, just because there is some warmth in there a little bit. So yeah, I'm literally grabbing like everything. So we're gonna tone her to be as bright of a blonde. She didn't say that she necessarily wanted to be super cool or anything, just nice and bright. But I told her adding a little bit of coolness might do some good for her hair, just because there is a little bit, it is naturally dark and I don't want any of that warmth to show through. So I literally just grabbed like all of my bottles. Thank the Lord I just stocked up. So that's what we're gonna mix right now, and I'm gonna have to do two bottles. So here we go. So these are all of the bottles that I was able to pull down that I thought would be good for her toner. Okay, so for her formulation, because I know like somebody's gonna ask how much did I use of this or that, and the answer is gonna be I don't know, because I have to mix 2 bottles. I'm really just gonna pour like a little bit in this one and then a little bit of that one, and then I'll move on to the next and pour, just because I have to make sure. I don't want to do like a whole bunch of 10 and 9 in this one, then I use all my 9 in that bottle, then I don't have enough for the next one. So I kind of have to go back and forth. So 10 PA, 10A, and a little bit of, probably a quarter of the formulation will be 9 PA and 9V. So if that tells you anything, there you go. All right, we're gonna go through, and I'm trying to keep this as even as possible. I literally went through 7 bottles of these Paul Mitchell toner bottles, and I mean, this was just a massive amount of toner that I ended up having to use. And I was honestly, I didn't have like a specific like formulation that I was trying to mix. I just knew that she had so much hair that I just grabbed every single toner that I could, that I knew would go well with what we were needing to accomplish. So we were just trying to add, honestly, not too heavy amount of the 9, just like a little bit, but majority of the level 10 PA, 10V, 10A, and a little bit of the 9. So that was all of the toners that we had to use. And those bottles, I let it sit for probably like 10 minutes or whatever. And now we're going to run some Olaplex through her ends. I was kind of thinking, depending on how her hair blended, are we going to have to go through and do a root shadow and blend her hair at all? But luckily everything blended really nicely, so I didn't have to. I was really shocked. I really thought I was going to have to. But everything looked really, really good. So we're just going to put some Olaplex in her hair. And honestly, I didn't end up washing it out. So we're going to comb her hair. And this is so time consuming. Luckily, her hair didn't take that long to comb out. But sometimes this part of the service can take like 45 minutes easily. So I just pulled up the chair from behind and I'm sitting in it, because sometimes my back gets like the worst Charlie horse in it, like in my hip area. Just from like the way I brace myself or stand or twist or whatever. So I figure we're gonna be here for a while. I'm sitting down. So we're just gonna blow dry it and then curl it and style it and call it good. And you can already see how nice and pretty that coolness is. It's just so crazy how dark it looks when it's wet, but then when it's dry, it just brightens up so nicely. So we're just gonna finish the service out with a little curl, and then you guys can see the final result. And somebody made a comment about how the end shot never is long enough, so I'm going to try to make that a little bit longer. So hopefully you guys are happy with it. People always ask me how I style my clients' hair and do a video on it. And actually I do have a few videos from a while ago, like maybe even a year ago. You just kind of have to dig through them to how I style my clients' hair and how I curl their hair. So just curl all of your clients' hair back in the same direction, everything going to the back center, let it cool down, and then comb everything out, and that will give it like a nice wave. So that is my tip for curling. Just make sure everything goes back. If you use a curling iron or flat iron or whatever, just end up combing it out, and that will give it like a really pretty wave. So here's the after. She was obsessed with her hair and loved it so much. It was so pretty, and she really loved how nice and bright it was, how perfect the tone was. Look at how nicely it blends into her roots, but she definitely has a lot of brightness there. And then her hair got super nice and icy, and it's kind of hard to see here, but there was one picture where I took where it was like closer up more to the window, and you could see how really cool and how nice and bright it was. But we stepped back a little bit, so it's a little bit toned down here. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys liked this video. I know it was kind of long, but I appreciate it if you made it through the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.